Watch everybody. I'm especially to people in the Flare community. Like many of you, I'm currently driven to distraction with the drama and controversy going on online, mostly on Twitter, but also on other social media channels around the nature of the Flare airdrop and potentially other anomalies or bad behavior that may have uh, been exploited by various actors on the Flare network. So before I jump into this, I just want to say yeah, I've been participating in Songbird and Flare for years now, mostly as a delegator, but I've watched the project. I've looked at whatever source code has been available as well and played around with it. I've also looked into the history of the project and looked into the people that have been involved. And look, I totally agree. It hasn't been without controversy. There's Flare Network and then separately Flare Finance. And for those of us in the community, Flare Finance had some issues as well. But I think Mickey B. Fresh, uh, his explanation of what happened and the resignation of some people on the Flare Finance team kind of quelled my anxiety with respect to that project, and I continue to use Flare Finance. Flare Network is a completely separate entity as far as I can see. And yeah, the airdrop, I'm not going to go into it. Other people know more about it than I do, and I'm listening to them and I'm watching them, and I'll put links into what I think are important pieces of content for everyone in the show notes for this video so you can make up your own minds. But I just wanted to try and, rather than pouring petrol on the fire, try and calm things down a little bit and give you, hopefully my perspective will help in doing that. Firstly, hoos.crypto, I love your channel. I started watching you I guess a few months back. I don't know if your channel is relatively new, but immediately struck me as well researched, well produced, and very fair analysis and content. So huge respect. And we've for the record, we've shared the odd message on Twitter as well. And then, so a lot of respect for us crypto. Everything that I'm saying comes from a position of respect. I've got no reason to dislike this chap. I think he's overall he's a good actor. And then there's Hugo Filion, CEO of Flare Network. And look, I'm at the point in the last 7 years I've been the serial CTO for 4 startups. Um, I know how difficult it is and how challenging it is to go from 0 to 1 to building a business from scratch, putting the technology together, dealing with all the complications that occur. And my main point. So I have a huge amount of respect for Hugo, the other executives, and everyone at the Flare Networks team who've been on a long journey to get to this point where they're actually live now. So congratulations to that team. But the saga continues, and I guess it never really stops. Um, I just want to this particular tweet here from Oz Crypto. Let me read this out to you, and I'll give you my thoughts on this. For all of those supporting FLR and Flare based on the belief that F assets and Layer Cake are in development despite the complete lack of any GitHub that shows they are, here's Hugo's stance. In quotes, there is also no guarantee that the dApps developed by this team would be successful. Yeah, no surprises, I think. I wouldn't give any guarantees around any project that I was working on that it's going to be delivered. You don't know what's going to happen. I've worked on projects where the product owner has died. I've worked on projects where people have been essentially have had been forced to leave the company. You would be anyone that gives you a guarantee of a deliverable. If you believe it, you're gullible, and anyone that gives you those guarantees, you should be questioned with a lot of suspicion. You should approach that with a lot of suspicion. There are no guarantees in startups and in crypto. It's you have to learn to deal with the uncertainty. So, I'll just read out Hugo's full justification here. So, just a clarification, as I think I created some confusion in the interview the other day, it is important that people understand what the network is, specifically an L1 EVM platform with the FTSO and the state connector. This makes Flare the L1 with the most native functionality on the market for which hundreds to thousands of use cases can be developed. One of those use cases is potentially the concept of F-assets. F-assets, if built, would be a dApp on Flare, in the same way a DEX is a dApp on Flare. F-assets could be built by any dApp developer. Part of the team behind Flare, but not all, are separately employed by a for-profit corporation that intends to develop dApps on Flare and potentially other networks. This team is working on the implementation of the F-asset protocol and separately in implementation of the ideas behind Layer Cake as outlined in the papers. There are no guarantees that this team will be the first to deploy any of these implementations, nor that it will be that it will end up deploying any implementation. Any dApp deployed by this team would be part of an ecosystem of dApps on Flare and would contribute to the overall ecosystem. There is also no guarantee that the dApps developed by this team would be successful. In essence, the network is the network and it has certain functionality. That is what is being delivered at TDE, Token Distribution Event. Everything else is a use case of Flare that may or may not fly. People should not conflate the two. I think that's clear. It's an uncontroversial statement. Now, I would imagine it would be interesting to see that, if there is a for-profit organization working on F-assets, maybe that's why the GitHub isn't forthcoming. Maybe it's a private GitHub. It's not uncommon for projects to make their code open review or open source only after it reaches a certain degree of maturity and maybe with some evaluation. But yeah, fair play to hoos.crypto. It would be great to see greater transparency around source code GitHub repositories. That's one of the metrics that I would use to analyze any project anywhere. How active is the GitHub? How productive is the development community? How engaged are they with the project? So, again, I would encourage any FTSO or anyone on the Flare network who's developing here to, if they haven't made their GitHub public, then they should just come out and say so and express the reasons why it is perfectly justifiable, and potentially kind of give an indication that they will make it public in due course and what the constraints are, because we do need to see at least some metrics of activity, right? I mean, that's no bad thing. But yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to build an F-asset dApp myself if I had enough time to do it. So yeah, another point, let me just go to this tweet. Just like to Hugo's credit here, let me read this tweet out in response to hoos.crypto. While I find the hyperbole and invective in the delivery unnecessary, hoos.crypto is doing an important job for the ecosystem. This kind of scrutiny needs to be constant presence in the ecosystem. 100%. Everything that I see around the Flare network is based on the community actively being engaged in maintaining overall governance and standards of the actors within that community. When you're building open permissionless systems, bad actors are part of the ecosystem, and all you can really do is detect them through vigilant community and then take action to slash them and remove them from the community. And to that end, hoos.crypto, I think, is probably doing a fantastic job at identifying some of the FTSOs that at this stage seem to have engaged in some dubious activity, but I'm not even sure to what extent it's dubious or unwelcome activity. Probably is, but he should be commended by the community for taking this action and not attacked, right? So, I mean, this is what we absolutely want. Arguably, yeah, I think, giving him a grant to some extent to fund the research activity to identify these bad actors and present a case for removing them from the network is the right thing to do. So just a couple of thoughts. I'm sure this saga will continue, and I look forward to participating in it. Thanks, everyone. Bye.